in New Delhi. So I'm getting a message that it will be live streamed now. There are many ways to interpret the term freedom, and from September 2022 until January 2023, some of the members of UNIC have set themselves the term to organize different events to share and explore the topic hand in hand with the New Delhi audience. So we will do a kickoff, let's say like this. This will be the first event of the series, but other events from, for example, Alliance Française, Goethe Institute, Liszt Institute, the Embassy of Ireland, the Embassy of Slovenia, Embassy of Switzerland will follow. Now, let me start by introducing our Austrian author, Ms. Erika Chronobitter. She studied comparative literature, German language and literature, and art history. And she is initiator and organizer of the Feldkirch Poetry Prize, which is in Vorarlberg. She writes poetry and prose and also publishes in anthologies as well as her own books. Currently, she works as a writer, as an editor, and a visual artist. Her text Gurkenzeit, Gherkin season, about her holiday job as a student in a factory served as a base for today's event and as a title. So I think without further ado, let me hand over to my colleague and senior advisor of the Austrian Cultural Forum New Delhi, Monish Bal, who will then introduce Professor Kumar, and he will also act as a moderator of today's event. Monish, the floor is all yours.
Mr. Bell, please unmute yourself.
Yeah. Thank you, Sophie. Thanks a million. And welcome to all our friends and viewers over here. Before we move further, I would also like to take this opportunity to welcome you all on behalf of our ambassador who is at present in Vienna and probably looking at us on the screen, Her Excellency Mrs. Katharina Wieser. I'd like to wish her also good evening from all of us. And now we take over set the ball rolling. I've been given the task to introduce Parveen Kumarji, the associate professor. Now, I must say that, Sophie, that we have now two really versatile personalities who are going to talk on this particular topic, which is not easy, but at the same time, it's easy in the sense that it's quite vast and it can be, any time, can be from any angle we could, start the discussion on it. Professor Parveen Kumar, I would like to take the liberty of, reading your CV because it's such a versatile CV that I don't want to miss anything and make one of our participants, angry about that, you see. Professor Kumar is MPhil. He has written MPhil dissertation focused on polemic over the nature of real and reality and realism in Marxist atheistic philosophy in interwar years. His intersections between the crisis of the post-colonial Indian state and the response according to it by the social critical cinema in India. He has published widely in national and international journals on the kind of cinema mentioned above and has presented papers in international and national seminars and conferences on 19th and 20th century European and Indian literature and cinema. Now, this is one particular field which is of very close to my heart also, the cinema. And Professor Kumar, please don't get, a bit hesitant that later on you get bombarded by my lots of questions on freedom and Indian cinema and literature in due course. So, having said that, and not to forget that where there is a feast for years waiting for all of us to listen to these two ardent speakers, we should not waste words on talking and introductions which has already taken place. So I would like to take this opportunity and introduce Professor Praveen Kumar once again and ask him to kindly take over the floor and set the ball rolling for the evening. Professor Kumar, over to you.
My best. I would first like to introduce the author who we are supposed to listen to today, Miss Erika Chronobitter. Miss Chronobitter was born in 1959 in Hartberg, Styria. She lives in Vienna and Vorarlberg, and she studied comparative literature, German language and literature, and art history. Chronobitter is the initiator and organizer of the Feldreich Poetry Prize. She writes poetry and prose and publishes in anthologies as well as her own books. Currently, she works as a writer, editor, and a visual artist. She has received quite a slew of, I would say, prizes. 2001, the Recognition Award for Literature of the Province of Vorarlberg, several residency scholarships in Venice and Chios. Then in 2001, once again, Prose Prize Brixen, and then in 2001, Theodor Kroner Prize. Some of her publications include Endlich alles Richtag, published by Auger 10 Press, Vienna. Gurkenzeit, published by Bucher Hohenems, the 1926 to 2016, the novel that she published in 2016, La Laguna, which was published from Vienna and which has recently been translated into English. And for the first time, the English speaking readers also have that novel available. I have seen it on Amazon just a couple of days back. It's available now. So in 2019, she published the Podium Portrait volume with selected published and new poetry. Then in 2019, translation of a poetry collection. I'm not very good at Deutsche, so einen Herzschlag nur bis zu Entfernt, if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Einen Herzschlag.
Correct me if you.
Excuse, einen Herzschlag nur. It's a heart of a beat of the heart. You are far off. Excuse.
No, it's all right. It's all right. So it was published, publisher, Edition Art Science, Saint Wolfgang. And then 2020, recently, translation of a novel, La Laguna. translated in Spanish, translated by Olga Sanchez Guevara in Cuba. And I don't know, I mean, it seems that Amazon has made some mistake, it seems to me then, because they have also listed this translation as available in English. I mean, maybe. So this is a few of the things, a few of the works of Ms. Chronobitter. I would I'm not sure, you know, see the idea, you know, of this. I mean, we had discussed it earlier about the format and how do we go about it. I think, Ms. Chronobitter, I would like it very much if you, if you begin with reading, you know, from from your work, the recent work in particular, the Gherkin season, which is doing the rounds in the literary circles at the moment. So if you can, I mean, I think if you find it agreeable, if you find it convenient, I would like to read you something from the Gherkin season, and I think that will give us some point of entry into the topic, into you know what we are supposed to talk about, because I would specify the reason why I am putting this caveat, because this is the Freedom Project, and freedom in itself is an all-encompassing term, you know. I mean, then we also have several other kinds of things on freedom of choice and choice of freedom, which may seem interchangeable, but there's here and there there is a slight difference in the emphasis, right? Which also you know changes it, you know, upside. I mean, in some senses, you know, it's the approach, you know, from the different side altogether. So better to give it a direction, I would request you to read from your work first, from the Gherkin season, and then we can have a kind of I mean, I have some of my own observations, because when I read the text, I was thinking about some things, you know, which I was curious about. So maybe we can then start a conversation on that after that. Yeah.
Yes. Then, so I will start with reading. Yes?
Yes,
okay.
Please. Yes, please.
So I have to take my text. Gherkin season. Do you understand? The first the bigger ones, 4 or 5. Then the small ones, stuffing in at the side hammer or other, fast. There is need to be fast but not hectic, at a constant and confident velocity. The gherkins in front, continuously behind in the passages of the glasses, empty glasses that need to be filled. The ones I cannot fill, other one does. Me here, the other one there, one colleague on my right, another over, one there. Sometimes the gherkins block, the gherkin ends spread between the two sides of the glass, a protest. As if they did not want to go into the glass. Time and again the thumbs have to apply some pressure. A laughter. Who is laughing? Without pressure, the Spanish woman don't work, says the foreman, and claps his hands. An agitation somewhere further down the conveyor. An acclamation. and done again everything in file. The voices become silent under his stern looks. As the case may be, both thumbs ache and I must let them have a warm, relaxing bath before I can sit down for dinner. No drinks in between, no cigarettes, no breaks. Loo breaks are not wanted and not welcome. We are a team. I am in the summer team. For 5 weeks. Together we are responsible for having bottled as many glasses as possible at the end of the line. A dash of vinegar water with spices from the filling station, lid onto the pallet. You can be glad you don't have to do this all your life, Mother says. I can be glad and watch the laughing working woman during the breaks and after work. A laughter and jabbering and chattering. During lunch break, they tell each other what they earn. I am uncomfortable to know that I get paid higher wages per hour. Also, it is only a holiday job. And I'm not amazed that the hourly wages of the smart student are higher than mine. In school, we heard that this was the way it was, that it was still the same. In autumn, I will be able to report live on it. Sweet and sour. This was my reading.
No, I have just a couple of, I mean, while I was reading through these, through these passages, I mean, I was quite, I mean, at some points I was perplexed, and at some other points I was also excited, because some of the ideas seemed to me as familiar, as coming from, once again, because of my deep interest in the 19th century labor history, coming from the 19th century, working class literature that I have had I still have a special interest in, and some of it comes from the fact that there are direct questions related to, in this, I mean, I can very clearly see that there are direct questions that comes to my mind, which is related to the larger question, larger questions related to, your freedom to choose to do what you do, and the limits to that freedom, determined in a way, by the forces that are external to you, and the forces that keep on exercising their influence on you all the time, and how do the characters, I mean, how do whoever is being, I mean, it's a third person narrative. The first thing that I noticed as a student of literature, it's a third person narrative, so it's very clearly, I have read some of your other tracts, some of your other excerpts where you speak in first person, and I was quite excited about those too. But here you speak in third person. And speaking in third person, it seems that you're speaking about the experience of a certain community. You're speaking on behalf of a certain community, and yet the voice that speaks it seems to know the community so very closely, so very dearly, that it can almost identify with the laughter, identify with the gap in the wages. It can identify with all of it, and larger question for me then that comes here, is that why is it that there is an empty glass which is a need to be filled? For instance, at one point you said that there is empty glass that needs to be filled, and you said that it's the one I cannot fill. Now, where is this restriction to your, filling of the glass? I mean, is coming from? I mean, what precisely do you mean when you say that you cannot fill up the glass? It seems that you are not talking about your choice of not filling up the glass. You are talking about the conditions imposed on you because of which you cannot fill the glass. So am I reading it correctly, or am I reading it? Another one does. Am I reading it correctly? Are you talking about the limits on the freedom of your, wish to fill up the glass yourself? The limits imposed by the external, or are you talking about something else that because of some other reason you can't do it yourself and someone else does it? I mean, I as a critique, I tend to read a bit too much at times. That's why there's this note of caution. So, and again, the voices become silent. Once again, at a later point, you say there is a conveyor belt. Definitely, it's a factory line. Assembly line production system that we are talking about here. There is a of course, it is being supervised, and the voices become silent under his stern looks. This stern looks, is once again, it's a kind of, curtailing, your choice of action. I mean, you were doing something else, and the stern look has been put an end to it. So once again, your freedom has been put to a certain kind of has been put under certain kind of conditions. So how do you see in your own works the kind of voice, the kind of things that you are talking about? The voices becoming silent, you unable to fill up the glass. This is definitely a kind of limit being put on your freedom to choose to do something. How would you respond to that?
Yes. When I start at the beginning, we see a young woman, but it does not matter in this point. A young woman between Spanish women, all they are free to come into this industry work, and then they have the need. They have to do something what they the thumb is aching, because if the glasses are coming on the line, 100 glasses are coming on this line, on this street, and you have to put the gherkins in it, and it's very it's aching, but it is the job. We all said we want to make this job. Only me and the student, we have the possibility to say goodbye after 5 weeks. And the foreman, he, and it is very many years ago, but I know from stories from other industry jobs, it's it's not better. In this assembling line, you have to work very quick, very, you have to make the best output you can. And the best output here is filling the glasses. And the woman, I was very depressed when I went home. Every day I saw the foreman, and he was very unfriendly and uncomfortable for me. And the woman, they have another kind of charm, another kind of feeling. They know they are working, and they have. They didn't know what I earned, but they have enough to go home with this money and bring to their family, to their children, perhaps to their husband, money to Spain or to their homes after the season. In winter, perhaps they have free for 2 or 3 weeks. And I think it is both. It is, they say they are free to come to here, but they are also, they have to come if they have no job at home. So like many people come to Austria, to Germany, to work, to find a work here. They are not, it's both, they are free to come, but they are forced to come because they want to have money. And so this kind of freedom is have two faces or more faces. For me, it was very good to, I knew I can go to school further. I make my school, I finish. I have the opportunity to have a job after, or I have the opportunity to study. The education and the possibility to learn, the Ausbildung, the learning of my parents have enough money that I can have the education, and that I can, I must not go in the next year to this industry assembling line, and I must not, and I have not to work this this kind of work. And what I also laughed on at this woman was the time they in the breaks they were happy. They laughed together. They played.
If I may,
Yes?
if I may come in, you mean to say that what you read, in this statement, what you want to convey to your readers in this description is the ambivalence of your understanding of the position of these women. It is not a clear binary of bondage and freedom, So on the one hand, they have been forced to enter into this, this production system because of the financial and the economic imperatives. But on the other hand, because they have the money, which they are earning through this, they also, as a consequence, will have the freedom to go back home and use the money in the ways they want it. Is that where it is going? I mean, is that where your understanding is leading you in this?
Yes, it's one part. It's one part, and the other part is that they are not really free to choose. If they could really free choose and decide, I think they would work at home.
Now,
But,
Ms. Chronobitter, I will just, once again come in, and I would say that if we look at the 17th, 18th, and 19th century working class history, and I'm more and more interested in working class history. That's why I will say that the rapidly industrializing England, for instance, in the 18th and 19th century in particular, it made it in a way, essential for for the working hands to they were forced out of the countryside into the cities, and many a times by framing laws, and the laws would not apply only to men because the hands were not enough. The women were also pushed into manufacturing towns like Manchester, England, Liverpool, and so on, in big numbers, right? Now, there is an idea that that circulates around, and it has become a very, very important focus of the women's emancipation movement, or the women's rights movement across the world, that financial freedom, economic freedom, is the fundamental condition for other kinds of freedoms that you can think of: freedom from patriarchy, freedom from other kinds of social norms that that have an oppressive character, right? But it seems to me that there is a long gap between the two, because entering into the workforce automatically does not translate into the freedom to spend the money too at your own will, and we can still see rampant examples of this phenomena in countries like India as well, where women are a big part of the workforce, starting from the bottom of the pyramid to the topmost rung. But a fraction of these women actually have control over their income, So the freedom they're free to earn. So to say that, is this in any sense an actual freedom? And I'm asking this to a person who is a woman, who is an author, and who is also writing about women as workers. What one does not essentially translate into the other. Now, again, the other thing that I found very interesting in this paragraph, in this passage, is no drinks in between, no cigarettes, no breaks. Loo breaks are not wanted and not welcome. Now, this for me is again a little takes us at least a century back in time. At least a century. It takes me at least personally a century back in time. And as Mr. Bell was very much interested, I would just like to refer to, I don't know how many of you have here watched Charlie Chaplin's The Modern Times. The film has a very, very interesting sequence where you have a very short period of break, I mean, this is an assembly line production setup. And the character of Chaplin is someone who tightens the nuts. And it's like tightening 2 nuts every second. And if he misses tightening, 3 or 4 nuts, then he is reprimanded by the supervisor. The loo brakes happens to be undesirable. Even taking your eyes off from the nuts and the bolts happen to be undesirable. So much so that the person enters into a mental state where whatever he sees that resembles a nut, he is automated to tighten it. Right? So these undesirable brakes, the assembly line production, the factory, the assembly line production, and these undesirable brakes have had a long-term history. And I was really, I would say personally, I was a bit surprised that we are talking about the 21st century first world here in this excerpt from your writing, and not about the 19th century France or England, not the 19th century industrialized nations, but about a developed. Do you have any response to that?
To this, sure, I have the response, because when I was young, I did this work, and I know people, they are coming to Austria, they have to work in, they make fruits and of the apple, they make the drinks with apple, and this is, I think, 10 years ago, and they say it's the same kind of working, and they are very paid very, very, very low. It's so low, it's a joke, because they told me they have in the hour, they have 4 euro per hour, 4 or 5 euro. The people come in the night with from Poland and these countries, I think Romania or Hungary, some years ago, and I met them on the railway station. And at this time, we had people normally are paid between 20 or 30 hours, and they had 4 and 5. And so it's a story from many years ago when I was young, and it goes through the years and through the years, and it's like the same. It's like the same. And if we see now, when I get when the people, they are working by Amazon and they have to bring the parcels, or if you see the people who bring the food in the evening or in the night with the bicycle. If I ring up and I say I want to have pizza, they come with bicycle and the bag on the pizza on the back, and they earn so less money. It's, for me, there's a bogen. It's like a circle. It's like a circle from the many years ago to now, and all what I thought when I was young, and I went to school, and I thought I'm in this time the world will be better and better. It made it was a little rise, and now the people have to go fast. They are ill. They cannot say that they are ill because they have to work because otherwise they have no job.
So what then in this situation, what then happens to the classical idea, the classical liberal economic idea, of prosperity having a cascading effect on the population of a nation, whereby making them freer and freer from physical labor, necessitating them to engage lesser and lesser in physical labor, and giving them more and more time and more space and the freedom, to realize, to actualize the other kind of potentials that they have, not just becoming economically productive, right? I mean, there is this classical idea, the classical on which the entire, the economic order at the moment, the world economic order at the moment depends, coming from Adam Smith, prosperity having the, the cascading effect, and everyone becoming more prosperous, working hours decreasing, more freedom to realize your spiritual self, your creative potential, and having time for all those other kinds of things. So what in your understanding then happens to that classical idea?
Yes, I think the idea is I like it, and I think it would be very good. But there was a mistake, or a mistake come in it, and the prosperity is only for a part of people, and the idea was,
and hence the freedom is also limited to them. The freedom of choice, or the choice of freedom, is also limited to them. Will you agree? Will you agree?
Yes. Yes. And I always think it should be, and it must be possible that all people can have a part, can participate, and but it's not possible because there are only few people. They have the Macht, they have the power to decide, and have the power to have they take the lines, den Faden. They have the woolen lines on. I cannot have the freed to make to create, because it should be good that all people could create their own place, their own way, their own life. And I often think it's not possible to create their own life without money. You cannot, in a town, it's not possible because there's no garden, there is nothing to live, and so it should be the possibility to participate for all. And when I write, and I only write, but I cannot do it. I cannot make it real, a reality, from my thinking.
I know. I think I get what you are trying to emphasize on. And taking lead from what you said there, I would nudge you on 2 points, which I noticed with specific interest when I was reading through this passage. A laughter and jabbering, chattering during the lunch break, right? This laughter, jabbering, and chattering, it once again comes. I mean, everything takes me back to the 19th and the classical industrial assembly line production system, And Marx was very, very brutal in theorizing it and saying that, it leads to, alienation and, alienation leading to dehumanization of the labor, right? I mean, the labor does not have the leisure which is the essential thing, to for recreation, right? But in the recent times, not very recent, but in 1980s, the French theorist Jacques Rancière, he put up a very scathing critique, of it. One of is in his book, The Knights of the Labor, he talks extensively about how the working class in Paris and the other French big French metropolitan France, the centers of production, how they used to spend their night. They used to spend the day doing the bone-breaking work. That was their bondage. But they were also free to exercise their freedom during the night by writing poems, by singing them in the groups, in the barracks that they used to live in, not letting their humanity die. So that idea, of dehumanization, which means bondage, a clear-cut, complete bondage to a certain kind of, economic order. But finding out time out of that bondage as well to prevent that complete dehumanization, choosing to stay free, at least in spirit, to write songs about, what they used to face in the factory, to sing it together, to nurse their wounds, right, by singing it to each other, nurse the wounds because of staying away from home, away from family, for years and years at an end, and so on and so forth. So this laughing, this chattering, this jabbering, this kind of thing, these activities, they have a very, very central, I think, kind of place in whenever we talk about, working class, and the industrial working class, assembly line production oriented work, and so on. So that I found very interesting in your work, in this part of it. There are several things. It's like it's like every line calls for a response, but unfortunately we do not have as much time, I guess. Would you like to respond to what I just said? How do you see it?
But this, I think this is correct, what you said now. The possibility for laughing and for make joke, this is, so with this, they have their own space. It's the space of feeling well, I think so, because they the women are together. They know from each other what they are thinking and dreaming of, and like the other are singing and making music, they are laughing and have the joke. And this, I think, this are the some minutes when they also feel free. I agree 100%, yes.
And I
For
would
my-
like to, and I would elicit your, sorry, I mean, because we are running out of time here a bit. I would elicit your response to this last point that interests me once again quite a bit. Differential pay, differential wages for people who have received differential level of education. You know.
I did not understand now the differential.
I mean, I will read from your work. Tell each other what they earn. I'm uncomfortable to know that I get paid higher wages per hour, although it is only a holiday job. And I'm not amazed that the hourly wages of the smart student are higher than mine. I would just like you to respond to this disparity in wages, you know, because the work remains the same, but the wages change.
Yes, for me,
How does this in your understanding is a violation of the fundamental idea, you know, of freedom as a condition of equality, right? Equal work as a condition of equality.
Could you repeat that, Professor, once again? What was the last line?
Freedom as a condition of equality. I mean, what I mean
yes.
to say equal work, equal pay. You know, and there seems what seems to be happening here. What you have written seems to be a compromise of that freedom. You know? Violation of that freedom, it seems.
May I repeat the quality of, you ask about the quality of the freedom. I did understand correct?
Okay, let me put it once more, more precise, more succinctly. I will try to. You write that I'm uncomfortable to know that I get paid higher wages per hour, although it is only a holiday job. And I'm not amazed that the hourly wages of the smart student are higher than mine. My question here is that if the work is the same, you are pointing to differential wages. You're pointing to two kinds of wages for same kind of work.
I understand.
Right?
Yes. Because it's like a step, and we all are working the same, but because his education, the education from the student is better than mine. I only was pupil. We all work the same. He will earn more money than me, and I more than the women. And it is used also in many. I have a little bit. I have to correct it, because in the government, in the offices now, in the last years, they change also this mind. But the years before, if one person had the gymnasium but does not know what to count, to make the work in this office, because gymnasium is also very different to this work. he also earned much more money than a normal a normal not worker employer. And
So what I'm saying is it not violation of the basic fundamental principle? You know, I mean, if we see freedom also as equivalent to parity, right? Equivalent to equality, freedom as equivalent to equality. So if
I hope I understand correct, but my opinion is that when there is the work you do and me do and the other person do, we have to pay it the same because it's the same work.
yes, precisely. So your discomfort, the being uncomfortable, you know, that you are feeling here, that you are right, that you write about. You know, what I'm saying is this is a violation of the basic idea of freedom, because freedom in a fundamental sense also means equality, also means parity. If you're doing the same job, you are entitled for the same wages. You know?
Yes.
And hence, I mean, I would like to respond, like you to respond to that, as to, I mean, I see it as an infringement of on freedom. You know, the concept of freedom, the basic idea of freedom. How do you see it?
For me, it is also that it must be, some things should be the same for all people. And if they work, they have to earn the same. And if they work more, it's another. Then some people don't like to have. For they, it's enough to work 5 hours, and it's okay. Other people say, no, I like it and I want to have more money. It's okay, and they work perhaps 12 hours a day. But then it's okay that for the different.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yes, I do. I do. That's a different scenario. If you work for 5 hours and you are paid for 5 hours, if you are paid per hour, then if you work for 5 hours, you are paid for 5 hours. If you work for 8 hours, you are paid for 8 hours. But if you sorry.
Excuse, I only wanted, and the best thing I would like would be if all people have the possibility to have perhaps €1,000 per month, and they can. This is only for being €1,000, and then they can, or 800. I don't know. But then they can choose what they really want to do and want to work. And so I think the possibility is also given that parents can say to their children, yes, I want that you go to school. I want that I like it that you will go to the university or not. Perhaps not everybody has to go to the university. Perhaps I like to go to sell bread in a shop. It's also perhaps also beautiful.
Okay.
And
I
don't know if you.
Professor Kumar, I have one question for you. I mean, I know this is not a question hour session at the moment, but due to the constraint of time, you know, I have to come in. But what Mrs. Chronobitter has been explaining, you know, and what you have been talking about, the differentials and all that, isn't it already prevalent in the society over here in India? And second part is that have you depicted this? And this has been depicted in our movies of yesteryears also, you know. So how do you explain this particular, you know, phenomena from the Indian scenario, especially from the panoramic and, you know, from the film point of view, so that you know, Mrs. Chronobitter can also get slightly, you know, an idea that what we are discussing now or what we are discussing is not prevalent now, but has been prevalent before, irrespective that it was a British society or so, but still, I mean, it was there. I still remember a film called Do Bighe Zameen, where a poor, you know, farmer had to come over there and he had to sell off everything and his land has also gone. So I would be very happy if you could kindly, you know, throw some light on this
Yeah.
particular aspect.
That
And
the film is 1952, directed by Bimal Roy, one of the first films which one can call the critical realist films, you know, made in India.
Mm.
Well, the film is focused more on, you know, I mean, wage is not at the center there in the film, you know. It's basically located in an agrarian community, and the loss of, you know,
the piece of land
the
or
piece of land, and the piece of land goes off because of the pre-capitalist economic structures. I mean, we are not still talking about the capitalist economic structures
yes,
when
sir.
we are talking about Do Bigha Zameen. You know, we are talking about pre-capitalist economic structure, because it is the landlord, it is the money lender, the usurer.
Mm.
Where you can see it happening much more clearly, the collaboration between the two, the city-based, you know, businessman who is stocking, you know, the food grain, you know, and this and the joint venture between the landlord in the village, the usurer in the village, and those who depend on those who make profit out of, you know, stocking of the food grain and selling it off at their, you know, as and when their business interest allows it to them. That film is 1946. That film is Dharti Ke Lal. That is the first film which focuses on this thing, you know. So I think that has a far more incisive and clear understanding of that film, you know, has a more clear understanding of how the two is working in collaboration. And in that sense, it once again takes us back to the 19th century, 18th century England, where we can see that the industrial capital is translating into, you know, state house, state manors in England, you know, and the income from the large state houses and manors, it's feeding into the industrial, you know, in a way, it's feeding into the industrial production, you know. So industrialization of agriculture itself, as it was, it happened in the West. It did not happen in India ever. You know? At that scale, industrialization of the produce happened. Industrialization of the produce, it did happen. In an organized way, you know, the market for the produce, the centralized market for the products, for the agricultural products, the centralized system of market regulation, that did happen. But so to say, agriculture in India is still in one cannot say that it has been it is industrialized in the same way as it is in the West. Now, why I say this? We do not have too much time at hand. Otherwise, this is a topic that can launch us into a very long debate. The reason why I see it as important is because you see the recent the farmers movement. I mean, what was the crux of the farmers movement? It was the same thing which in a different way happened in England in the 18th and 19th century, and of course, I mean, every nation has its own typical character, I mean, has its own specifics. But that sort of industrialization did not happen in India. Market was regulated, market was industrialized. That happened. But the nexus between the local, the nexus between the agrarian and the industrial interests, the nexus still continues, and the nexus benefits both. It is not one at the cost of the other, as it happened in most of the Western societies. If I try to speak about it through films, then I mean there is a long list, and the list comes for me at least, the list comes down to as late as 1984, 85, Shyam Benegal's Manthan, the dairy revolution in India, the Amul cooperative, the formation of the Amul cooperative, and look at all the kind of contradictions that the film contains. That will give you a clear picture of the nexus. So it's as old as 1946 and as new as 1984, but there are films after that also. I'm not saying that it ends there. I'm saying that because there is a new kind of flow between 1946 and 1984, and then it takes a different turn. But coming back to Erika, I guess, right? I'll respond to it later. I mean, I was very much excited by one of the other selection from her writing. If we have time, I would like her to read this as well, and then we can have. I mean, I wouldn't interrupt in this.
I would rather say, Professor Kumar, because of the time constraint, we'll have to give the second section, but would be nice that you apprise or you inform Mrs. Chronobitter about your works. At the same time, the conditions prevailing out over here, the similarities, what Mrs. Chronobitter has been writing, and those particular aspects which can throw a bit of a highlight and light.
I can.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to take you.
No. I know.
From the
if there is we can make 5 minutes, accommodate a 5 minutes long something. There is a poetry that was in the selection that that she sent me, and I would like her to read that. Like her to read it very, very much. It resonates just as much as the earlier selection did, and after that we can do what you were suggesting. So, Erika, would you please do that?
Yes.
I got a set of poems, but I found this particular poem, "The Wars Continued." The wars continued, as of very specific interest for several reasons. But I would like you to, will you please read it out, and then we can have a bit of a conversation on that, and then we can move on if you want to.
Yes, I do.
Please do. Yeah.
Moment. I wrote it as answer to Ingeborg Bachmann's poem. The wars continued. We know the wars were continued. We know that now the palm catkins lie of a forbidden summer, which was supposedly agreed to all will give us today. The ministers reach deep into and distract from the deeds, sometimes also from the dead. The poets not even seemingly dead. That would already be too much of liveliness. Write global poems, harmless. In order not to get caught in the word and feel visibly well. We are caught and do not grasp it and nothing more in words. Babel.
I was particularly taken by the second half of the poem, to be very honest. You know, where you start talking about writing global poems, harmless in order not to get caught in the word and feel visibility. Well, we are caught and do not grasp it, and nothing more in words babble. It sounds to me that you know, that there is an appeal for a directness in these lines, you know, in responding to violation of the norms of freedom, you know, that it should not be, it should be the poet should be direct in, I mean, he should not hide behind, he should be direct in responding to, you know, the war, which is of course one of the biggest examples of the violation of what, if we consider freedom as a human condition, you know, as a fundamental, as a primary human condition, it is a violation of it. It seems to me that you are chastising the poets here, you know, that you are unhappy with the poets for not talking about it, for not pointing to it in a direct form, and somewhere you know, beating around with wordplay and so on. Is my observation right? And if it is so, then I mean, what is your response to it?
Yes, I agree. Your feeling is correct for me, because now you know there are many problems in the world, and there are many authors. They write about the little bird in the water, and and every time it's only the soft poem away they take, and they are going, they don't they are not they don't allow themselves to speak clearly and to speak what's fact, because sometimes if we speak clearly and name and are naming this the things, it's very difficult, because the next colleague will be against you. And you know, Facebook and all the thing, it's very difficult to say clear words because 100 votes are against you if you are clear.
So
And-
what will you like the poet to do? Would you like him to speak directly and be hanged? Or would you, I mean, this is a very direct question because, you know, in my personal experience, I mean,
yes, you please.
if I may come in, you know, I mean, in my experience, I mean, or take it as a question, you know, is it also not true that some of the most powerful metaphors, you know, and the metaphors are, I mean, I don't need to teach to talk to a poet about the power of the metaphors. I mean, the most powerful metaphors, they were invented by the poets who, you know, I mean, under the most oppressive regimes and under the most oppressive conditions. I mean, Pablo Neruda happens to be one of my favorite poets, and he hardly ever talks in a direct language, the kind of directness that you are seeking. Or for instance, Federico Garcia Lorca, for instance, you know, I mean, most Federico Garcia Lorca, for instance, I mean, their poems are full, I mean, they're powerful, the metaphors are powerful, but at the same time, you know, they're not direct. They are not, I mean, you would understand precisely what they're trying to point to, but would you call it hiding behind the words, or will you call it, or do you have something other in mind? I mean, for this.
No, to be, it must be not directly, only directly, but this poem is for this authors. I thought they want to speak and give the focus to all these problems. Many, you said Garcia Lorca, and so yes, but in the surrounding of me, there are many people, writer. I can only say it in translated from German. They are living in the day and write about the blue of the sky and about the birds. And there, it must not be spoken directly about violence, but they yes, they could take. It's not on me to say what they have to do, but when
I can very much understand your disappointment, and I can very much understand your anger as well on this point. I just want to come in with an example, and I will end it with that. I mean, one of the most noted 19th century, 20th century French thinkers, Roland Barthes, that Roland Barthes we are talking about. In his selection of work, in one of his essays actually, you know, which is called The Human Comedy. Sorry, The Human Tragedy. He talks about a traveling exhibition. A traveling exhibition which depicts human condition under 5 or 6 different kinds of heads. Right? Love, hatred, hunger, war, and so on. And this is a collection of photographs from all across the world. And these photographs have not been sorted out according to the specific place that they're coming from, they are being sorted out according to themes: love, war, hatred, etc., etc. Barthes has an accusation. He says this is universalizing, or so to say, he's saying it is dehistoricizing human experience, as if love in itself is a universal experience which does not have a historical location, which is not historically, which is not locally, which is not conditioned by the specific place or the specific space in which it is, in which it is taking shape, in which it is coming into being. Barthes' accusation is that we as philosophers, we tend to universalize the human tragedy, or the human comedy, or the human condition, whatever it is. He would rather argue with you, that it is very much located. It very much belongs to a time. It very much belongs to a place. It very much belongs to a space. Love is not universal. Love is very much historically located, right? So in that spirit, I understand the import of your poem, of the second half of the poem very, very much, and I appreciate it also very genuinely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I had to say, and if Manish wants to take it from here, and
No, I wouldn't like to make a day, because I would like to give equal chance to our viewers and audience who are here, especially who have joined us also from Austria. I find Robert Solker here, who is a musician, and he was in India just a week ago. And he's an ardent lover of India. And his view, I would like to take. Are you there, Robert?
Hello, a very nice afternoon to all of you in India and wherever you may be. Can you hear me?
Yes, we do hear you. And would you like to give any comments?
I'm terribly sorry I couldn't make it earlier to the meeting, so I just tuned into it right now. I will have to listen a little more to what you are talking about. But if you have any specific questions about the theme, I can answer them, of course.
Yeah, no, we just would be nice, because the main topic has been freedom, and what are the concepts of the freedom, and how Mrs. Chronobitter has depicted freedom in her works, and how Professor Kumar from India has also depicted in his thesis on Indian films and all. So, would you like to comment about the terminology of freedom in India, in Austrian music, or music which is, like a universal, it has the universality, and at the same time it's without geographical borders?
Of course, I can talk in my special field about freedom in music. I can
you switch on your video, because everybody would like to look at you. We saw
Okay.
you on stage, but would be nice to see you on screen also.
Here
Yeah.
I am.
Hi. Yeah, now you can proceed, please.
Okay. So when you say Austrian music, of course, I'm not really a protagonist of Austrian music, because I'm as jazz musicians as well as the 4 colleagues who came to me to India. But in this very special field, the freedom of musical and the freedom of musical expression is a very important one, more over than in any other form of Western music. Jazz, the form of expression in jazz, within jazz music, is the most important. That starts in the way you set up the tone on your instrument until the actual notes that you are playing. So, I mean, that has also existed in earlier times, particularly in times of Baroque music. And because improvisation then was also a very important field. It has gone back in times in the Romantic area, where everything was very thoroughly notated, all the expressions, even the pedal marks for the piano. So this kind of free expression came back within jazz musician and modern improvisation. Also, of course, within the modern classic, or modern classical music, improvisation also became very important. So in what I've heard in Indian music, there's also a great freedom within special kinds of music. I'm not an expert in this, but I've played with a sitar player, with an Austrian sitar player, and what I know, the expression in Indian music is so the improvisation is quite far stretched also in this music, in this Indian music. I hope I could contribute something to your.
Well, thank you very much, Robert. Thanks for attending, and thank you for your comments. Mrs. Erika Chronobitter, would you like to ask Professor Kumar just one question? Because he has been asking throughout the evening so many questions to you. Now you have the chance. Now you have the chance to give him back by asking just one question, and then we open our question hour session for the audience.
Thank you. Yes. If I ask you, may ask you, Professor Kumar, what is the essential part of freedom when you could change something in the world?
Once again, SMTL, I could not grasp that.
The most important part of freedom. If you could change something in the world, what would you want to change in relation to freedom?
Speech.
You would say that we all together had one language, or the kind of the speaking?
Exchange of ideas without boundaries. That's precisely what I mean. An exchange of ideas without the threat of, persecution. If you ask me what is the one most important aspect of freedom that I would choose over anything else, I mean, of course, I'm keeping the basic necessities aside, the bare basic necessities aside, fooding, clothing, shelter, education, and health, I'm keeping them aside. And I'm then talking about beyond that. the ability to be able to talk as we are at the moment without fearing any big B. That would be at the top of my priority list. Maybe because that's what I do. From someone else's angle, it can be something else, but maybe because that's what I do. And that's what you do, I guess, most of the time. So without boundaries. Language, of course, plays an important role, but we can see that gradually we are trying to overcome that. To a great extent, we have managed to. We are progressively managed to do so more and more. Maybe 25, 30 years back, this conversation would not have been possible. Maybe 35 years down the line, I mean, the quality of conversation would be very, very, I mean, superior compared to what it is. The communicability will increase several fold. So that is important. But ideas, I think, of course, ideas, I mean, there are two kinds of schools. You know, one would say that ideas do not change the world, actions do. But ideas, actions are constituted through idea, at least in the modern world that we're living in. They are not at the two ends. They are arranged along the same spectrum. So they cannot be seen as binaries. And that's what we are seeing happening across the globe, aren't we? So for me, that is of paramount importance. Yes.
So with that, I think so we'll come to slowly close the session. We move on to the last section of the program, and that is Q&A, question and answer. We can take very minimum questions, please. I would request the audience, but please feel free to ask our panelists, or rather, if you want to give a bit of a view, you are most welcome. I would rather say, my colleague, if he sees any hands raised, he could point out who would like to ask the question. Are there any questions?
I think we have tired them all.
They are all tired. I think so. This freedom part has really, I mean, brought them to a lot of thinking. And with that, I would rather like to come to an end. But before I hand over to my colleague Sophie, so with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Professor Parveen Kumar, thanks for your time. Mrs. Chronobitter,
my pleasure.
Mrs. Chronobitter, lovely to have you with us and joining us from Austria. And there are lots of thanks which we have to give. Without the valuable support of whose nothing would have happened. This program would have not been initiated. So what we have done is that we shouldn't miss anybody. We made a placard out over there and it's on the screen itself. Sophie, can I ask you to take over and give a vote of thanks?
I wonder what there is to add, because you already thanked everybody, but also from my side, thank you very much. It was a very interesting exchange. And for everybody who listened, you can, I think, still rewatch the video on YouTube. And please follow our Twitter, also social media, Facebook and Instagram, and also for Unique India. And there you see the other freedom projects. Thank you very much and have a great evening and a great weekend.
Thanks to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you guys.
Thank you very
Thank you for having me.
Thanks.